Hi everyone, I am Tara, aka Spirit Mother, and I'd like to welcome you all back to my channel on YouTube. I am Spirit to Spirit, Teachings of Going Within Self on TikTok, 1974 Enlightened Soul, and I'm also live on my Facebook. Today, I'm coming in to talk about the path to my awakening. Seeing different things by observing TikTok and just stuff that comes to me and what have you. Watch something. If you're not familiar with my channel, I would always suggest that people go in on my YouTube channel and read the description to get a better understanding of what it is that I'm going forward, especially within my lives. Check it out on Spirit to Spirit, Teaching of Going Within Self. Sometimes I come in here and it seems like I'm raging, I'm ranting, I'm raving. It could be all over the place, okay, because it's wherever Spirit guides me, wherever my heart guides me. So I bring different languages. I do different signing a little bit. I could clear energy. Sometimes there's like it comes off as a rage, or like it just get really aggressive, make you laugh or make you cry, push you off. It's just my channel's not for everyone. Some love me, some hate me, some like me, some loathe me. It all depends on where you are, and a lot of my topics will piss people off because I pick topics that a lot of people find very offensive or tread water. I am very open-minded. So I can see, by listening to other people, I can see where each person is coming from. And I can relate to it through my own experiences, okay? My journey, the path to my awakening, it started more in 99, as I had said before. I used a Ouija board. And when I used the Ouija board, I started experiencing a lot of different things. They said it was, I had psychosis, but I know differently. It took really 2020 in order for me to understand what it was. Well, I knew back in 99 that I was experiencing things on a spiritual, because I ended up having to go and have an exorcism done. That's taboo for people. Oh, that's not real. You're fucking right, it's real. And it wasn't a psychiatric unit. It wasn't counselors or psychologists that helped me through my journey, especially in the past 4 years. It was actually being able to tap in and connect with God, Source, Spirit, Creator, Christ, the consciousness. It was connecting with all of you on a deeper level, through the consciousness, through the heart, through the spirit. And I'm very grateful and appreciative of it, because even when people think I don't hear them, I do, because I hear here. So that was in 99, and I lost custody of my son, but I fought and I fought. And then in 2005, I finally got custody of him back, because I entered into a marriage that really neither one of us really wanted to get into, but the justice system basically put us between a rock and a hard place, because I was informed that the only way I was going to be able to bring my son back home to me was if I got married, because they were using my spiritual beliefs, my mental health, my marital status, the fact that I didn't have any other, wasn't able to have any other children. I had all the records, and just 3 years ago, 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 3 I decided to burn them all. And the reason why I burnt them all is because that was me, but that was my past me because I had to grow from it. After '99, and when I got my son back in 2005, because in 2003, 2004, I went to college and took my paralegal. And in 2005, I got a job as a paralegal, and I was doing great. It took me a year in order to get it, and I got the job. And when I got the job, we were in the midst of moving. So I was still staying in the city, and they were like living in the country. And then at one point, when we sold the house, I had to leave the house, and I went and stayed. I stayed with someone else and was traveling back and forth to work. Um, then when I got out, moved out into our home in the country, I was going to work one day, and it was a beautiful day. And I got on a turn, and it was like a hill. I come down the hill, and it come a turn and a turn. And when I come down off the turn, I lost control of my vehicle. I later found out that the Department of Transportation was informed that the road needed to be finished. They needed to come back and finish salting the road, but the supervisor or the head person told them, don't bother, that the next one will get it. And this was at 4:30 in the morning. And after my accident, the police, the ambulance, and the fire department were all calling the Department of Transportation because everybody was sliding around at my accident and told them to fly their ass over and salt the road. When I come, I felt like I got pulled back as a slingshot and then let go. And it was like I felt myself speed up, and I went airborne. And when I went airborne, I kind of like I didn't see things. I kind of blacked myself out because if you black yourself out, you don't tense up. So I felt the pullback, and I felt like I was just slow. And I felt my car go airborne, and I felt it dive, and then I smashed, and all I heard was crashing. This here is my accident. The, the car is mine. I was told that when I hit the truck that had been off roughly an hour prior to me, I was told that I drove the car. When I impacted, it drove his truck about 10 feet back from where he had stopped. And they said that the image of what they got was that my car cartwheeled end for end about 7 times. I was flying around in it because somebody, like, I don't know if I grabbed my seatbelt, but some notices that when I get nervous in the car, I will grab for my seatbelt. I come to, when I come around, the first thing I did was reach and turn off my vehicle. And when I went to try to get out of my vehicle, that I I turned off the car, and I tried calling 911, but it wouldn't go through because it said that I was within the service area and I was off in the ditch. So I literally freaked out. I lost it. I tried. I was screaming for help. I was trying to kick the windows out because I couldn't get out. And then I took my briefcase because I had a briefcase full of paperwork. And I put the briefcase up on my head, and I just I laid my head down and curled up in a ball and started asking God to help me. A man came and got me out of the car. He wouldn't let me look back and see what was going on. And I was sitting in the car, and all of a sudden, I started hearing screaming. My oldest sister was on her way to work, and I was the only one out in that area that had a Mustang. And I could hear her screaming and crying, "That's my sister. Where's my sister? Where's my sister? That's my sister." So he brought her to me, and I asked her, like, I was trying to keep calm, and I was trying to keep calm, and I was telling her, like, "Look, I need you to calm down for me, please." She's like, this asked me if he was my husband at the time, asked me if my husband knew, and I told her no. So she called my mom and dad, and she called my ex-husband. She called my husband at the time. She called him, and she gave me the phone, and he asked me if I was okay. And of course, I'm going to tell him I'm okay because I'm more in shock. And he was at home with no vehicle, so he couldn't get to me anyways. And then he blurts out and says, "What about the car?" And I'm like, "Well, I think the car is a write-off." And he just started hollering at me. So I hung up. And his reason for that was, "Well, you told me you were okay, but you were more concerned about the car." And that pisses me off. And when you look in here, okay, like if I have it on my computer sometimes, I think, but if you look, and I even showed it to the psychologist, right up here in the corner, you like in the other photo, you would actually be able to see it was like a bubble, an orb. And I didn't notice that at first, and then I started zooming in, and in that orb, it was an image of me, like that. So they took me to the hospital by ambulance, and they were checking. Clothes were moving. There was really no response, what have you. But I got sent home, and then my speech started slurring to the point where I could barely talk. I could barely walk. My whole body would just tremble to the point where it was like people wasn't understanding that. She's conversion disorder. She's looking for attention. But I'd be sitting there talking to people, and then all of a sudden it was like I go catatonic. It would be like somebody pressed pause, and it got to the point where I had to tell people, like, if that happens around you, don't touch me, because if you touch me, you better be ready to catch me, because whatever happens in that moment, it just let go, and I'll drop. So for a few years, I was trying to get help. They did a psychological evaluation on me, and they told me at that time that I had an IQ of 89. But see, the thing is, they're supposed to do it in increments, and for roughly 9 hours straight, they had me looking at a screen. I was bawling and crying, and I was in so much mental pain and pain in my body. I had a neurologist physically assault me. He took my arm because I was having trouble, and he took my arm and he torqued it right up and then kind of twisted it. So I have a hard time with doctors, and that kind of set me on a journey. And I was going to my family doctor at the time because I was at one family doctor and he was just kind of blowing me off. So I switched to another family doctor, and the thing she did the same thing because I kept asking her, and I had been doing some research of my own. Okay. And I requested, because I was still part of the insurance. So the insurance company would have paid for a PET scan for me. But my doctor wouldn't prescribe one. She said, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. We've done tests. There's nothing wrong with you." Bear with me, okay? Because everybody says about proof, okay? Proof, evidence, okay? But see, when you have the proof and you have the evidence, no one really wants to look at it, okay? So, anybody, like, okay, if I could, oh, here we go. Anybody know what those are? They're CT scans. Okay, I got these ones. But see, them to someone else, they wouldn't look at them. They'd have nothing to do with me because everybody was looking at my mental health records. And that's what's wrong. They look at the mental health records and then they tell everybody, well, you have a mental health issue. There's more. And not only that, but I also have the discs for the PET scans. Where did I put those? Oh, well, that's weird. No, they're there. Oh, okay. Bear with me 1 minute. I have another batch. And these are all of my, this here one is on my spine, okay? I just heard, how did you get those? Because you were allowed to request copies of them. They gave me this to take it to to take it to somebody, and they wouldn't look at it. And Dr. Alan Bass, take your conversion disorder and shove it up your fucking ass. I even told them, you can record me. And they were recording me. But when I requested copies of the recording, they wouldn't give them to me. The spine. These are the discs. I also have the discs for the PET scan, okay? Because I ended up settling with the insurance company, which I shouldn't have had to settle with the insurance company, but I settled with the insurance company so that I could get the money and take it to Alberta to get this PET scan done. Because the year prior in 2007, I ended up seeing a doctor up there, and he put me on seizure meds when the other doctor wouldn't. I had the PET scan done in Toronto, Mississauga. Okay, I had to take my mom, so I had to pay for a flight for both my mom and I to go to Alberta. I had to stay in a motel because my sister wouldn't let me stay there, so I had to pay for a hotel, paid for our food. I rented a car while I was there. I had to fly to Toronto twice and rent a hotel room twice. And that was from Alberta to Toronto, and then back to Alberta, and then back to Toronto, and then back to Alberta again. I ended up having to basically borrow money from my ex-husband too. That caused a lot of strain on our relationship. And the doctors did too, because the doctors kept telling my family that, oh, there's nothing wrong with her. Meanwhile, I'd go catatonic, I'd have slurred speech, and I start going unconscious. So the PET scan was done April 18th, 2008. Okay. Before I went up, I seen my psychologist, and I told my psychologist what I was doing. And I asked her not to tell my doctor, because my doctor wasn't going to send me. And, I have a right to a second opinion. I have a right to a third and fourth opinion if I want one. So she said, no, I'm not going to. So Mom and I hopped on a flight, went to Alberta. I went and got my PET scan done, and I come back. And when I come back home, I made an appointment with my doctor, see her. And I went in with this. And she wouldn't even look at it. She told me, I can't be your doctor no more for breach of trust. She was telling me about a breach of trust of her not trusting me. She told me that my psychologist contacted her and told her that I went to Alberta to get a PET scan done. Breach of trust, Tina. And I liked her. She fucked me over. I say, why? She was even my mother's psychologist. And I requested her because I liked her with my mom. So I lost my doctor. She wouldn't even read this, and this is what it said. History. This patient had MBA, January 2006, complaining of headaches and new potential onset of seizures, as well as left front facial numbness, pain, anxiety, depression, and neck pain from neuropsycho testing showing verbal learning disability. I don't have a verbal learning disability. I never did. They said I had a verbal disability, learning disability, because they sat me in front of a fucking computer machine for more than 8 hours straight with no breaks, nothing. Me crying and everything. Technique used, 361 BMQ of fluorine 18, fluoro 2-doxy D-glucose, FDG, was injected following informed consent in the 6-hour prior fasting. Prior to injection, the glucose level was 5.4, so normal. Imaging was performed approximately 1 hour following injection. Findings. There are some sublet findings, meaning places of concern, things that should be looked into. The most pronounced vocal area of increased uptake is seen in the left frontal region, corresponding to the area of the middle frontal gruis level and adjacent to the white matter. It is the highest area of FDG uptake on the brain scan. Elsewhere, there is some mild decreased uptake in the pituitary region. P-A-R-I-E-T-A-L. I had a traumatic brain injury, and they treated me like I was a mental patient. Well, did mangle my brain, and I'll get to more. So in here and you're listening, you know, if you suffered from a car accident, mental health, like it was actually, you were told it was mental health issues, but it was a brain injury, because they are not equipped enough to freaking understand a brain injury. And that's why people get worse, because the doctors are too quick to blame it on a mental health issue. And someone don't like me, I really don't care. Because Dr. Fuhrer, she was the one that dropped me as her patient. And you know, this is not defamation. Because it happened. That word region, especially high over the P-A-R-I-E-T-A-L cortex and in the parietal disruption. Oh, sorry. D-I-S-T-R-I-B-U-T-I-O-N. I looked different things up. It's also more pronounced over the right posterior pituitary region. There also is more discrete area of the focal defect in the left posterior parietal occipital junction, OCCIPITAL junction. Okay, I had the PET scan stuff right here. Okay, and I had a thing with regards to the red, and it's very hot. Impression. There is a focal area of FDG uptake standing out against the rest of the brain activity in the left frontal area as described above. Please see accompanying images. The seizure focal, they are hypometabolic or relatively cold during the interictal phase. And then, if injected at the same time as the seizure, show up as a focal hotspot. Possibly, however, the mechanism for seizure induction, if actually presented, may be different than typical temporal lobe foci. Sorry. The relative hyperbolic focus may be somehow due to scarring or some other process which is potentially a source of a seizure focus. Further investigation may help clarify. Elsewhere, there are just mild areas of FDG uptake. Please see the images. The color scale aggregates any differences and so makes sublet changes appear more pronounced, but nevertheless, even on gray scale, there is some mild decreased uptake high over the posterior brain region, especially the right, and in the paraseptal distribution. I can't pronounce that word. Parasitic. Decreased uptake has been described in hand injuries because of shearing force on the pituitary artery cerebral vessel. So my head was like, it was shook. You ever hear of shaken baby syndrome? Whiplash? It's the shearing. I'm going to get to something else, which come off at 90 degrees to the path of the main artery. Findings are sublet, but could be consistent with impaired cerebral metabolism, which is the lack of oxygen and glucose getting to the brain. There is more focal area of decreased uptake in the left posterior arterial occipital junction. It could be seen with a quantipope type injury, except that I do not see any corresponding lesions in the front area, and it is uncertain significance. So my doctor blew me off for that, and because she blew me off for that, things started getting worse for me. I come back from Alberta, and after I come back from Alberta, with my mom, we were living in another house, and I ended up like getting ready for Christmas, and I was putting up the tree, and I moved, and there was a lamp, and the lamp fell, and when the lamp fell, the bulb in it broke. Well, it was a mercury bulb, and I started sweeping it up. So the vapors, like I was like that far away, and the vapors I was breathing in. It's like fucking, when you go through mercury poisoning, it's like you ate insulation. And everyone knows how itchy insulation is. It is torture. I was sweating profusely. I couldn't sleep. I just was always like just agitated, everything. And I was going, I was sick. After that, I started dry heaving. Okay. That's where my weight loss came from, everyone. I went from I was up to 184 pounds, and in like 4 or 5 months, I dropped down to 94 pounds. I was dry heaving. Nothing was coming up. I couldn't hold anything down. I was telling everyone, well, I'm the only one that would go with me that had any concern was really my mom. My mom went to my doctor's appointments with me. She even said, like, there's something wrong. And then Dr. Fregosa just basically dismissed me. Poison control told me, oh, well, no, you can't get mercury poisoning from the light bulbs. There's only like 4 milliliters of liquid in it. But it's not the liquid you get the poisoning from. It's the vapors. Because it goes in your body, and it went all through. I breathed it in through my nose and my mouth. So I was ill all the time. I was having major stomach pains, everything. Doctors weren't listening. I was being blown off. Oh, it's mental health, conversion disorder. She wants attention. They even put conversion disorder down in my paper. I call it the bullshit disease. Or sorry, the bullshit disorder. He makes a lot. Dr. Alan Bassler makes a lot of fucking money off it. And how he done it to other patients. He's that one that I spoke about that I politely said, because I had looked him up and read about him, and I had politely said hi to him, and he just turns his head and just sticks his nose in the air and keeps walking. So 2009, he was my husband at the time, him and I, we went back to Alberta. And we had to come home. We ended up staying in another motel, but I went through some shit because we went to a girl's place that I had worked for when I was up there in 2007. And I'm still sorting through that because I was left downstairs in the basement, sleeping on a mattress on the floor when I couldn't even get to the light and nobody bringing me food or helping me or nothing. And my ex-husband was upstairs going shopping, buying paint and microwaves and everything for this woman, sitting in her garage with her, smoking dope and drinking beer. But he says nothing happened. But yet she told me that she could have fucked my husband if she had wanted to. So what am I supposed to think about that? So I kept going and I told him, I want out of this house or go into a motel. He got mad at me because we had to go to a motel. They were going shopping while I was downstairs sick. He couldn't buy me anything without buying her something. So do I believe him? Not really. And you can say, like, maybe. So we went home, and then when before we went, what ended up happening to make me go back to Alberta was I was standing in the middle of the kitchen. He was my husband at the time. He was on one side, my son was on the other side, and I was in the middle, and I was taking shoes out of a box. And all of a sudden, I said, "I'm going there." Okay. So we come back in 2009. Kept getting worse and worse. 2011. Actually, because I was speaking truth about my youngest son's father. We were at a ball game and a girl tried to kick my head in. My mom was the one that and stopped her. Everybody else, did nothing. So seriously, where's your morals? Where's your heart? Because you had none. And I don't care if anybody likes me or not, or if it was because I was saying something about your friend. Well, it was true. And I'll tell you, somebody else called me and told me that what I was saying, they believed me because that same person took this person way back in old road and fucking said, mentored her. Now, saying I was going unconscious. Okay. Okay. The light? Okay, just sorry. Maybe just oh shit. It's like, yeah, that's how quick I go down. But I know that he because I know that someone close to me has abilities to, they want to block things because it makes them look bad. Because that's what was happening. Ambulance people were physically assaulting me, being very abusive and aggressive. Ex-husband wasn't doing nothing. He was siding with them. So if he wants to know why I have a fucking problem with him, don't ever tell me you love me. This is my awakening. This is what all brings me to why people think I'm such a bitch and bitter. And one night, like this was going on, and I told this before, and then it's not because I hold it against them. It's because like these people that I care about and that I love and that are supposed to be family that hurt me. I could have charged everyone. I could have charged you. My youngest son. One night. It was a snowstorm, and he was having problems with his relationship, and this girl lived 2 hours or more away, and it was later at night. It was dark out, a snowstorm, and I was pleading and begging for him not to go. I was like kind of going like this on his chest, trying to, but he'll say, "No, you were hitting me," but I wasn't. I was going like this, trying to hold him back and pleading and begging with him not to go. Grabbed me by the shoulders. He pulled me in and threw me back. When he threw me back, I went about 5 feet backwards, and my back and the back of my head smashed right on the corner of the door casing, and I went down. And I started like crying. I was just like going like this because everything was blinking, and I could hear my son. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I could hear he was my ex-husband at the time, or ex-husband. And I could hear him like, "What did you do? Like, what did you just do?" And I'm like, "Get away from me, get away from me." And I'm telling them all to get away from me. And I'm just going like this. And I'm going down and everything's blacking out. I feel myself. I was fighting everything, fighting it. Called the ambulance, we went. They had me in the emergency room. And the doctor came in and asked me what happened. I didn't tell him that my son threw me backwards. Took me and shoved me really hard backwards. And my family might take offense to this, but oh well. I told him that I fell. And a lot of people who are abused will say that, or who have been assaulted by especially family members. 4422 at the time. With family members, okay? So I told him, I didn't tell him that my son did that. I said I fell, and he knew I was lying. But see, they never checked nothing. They sent me home, and I had a major concussion, and no one stayed with me. I ended up calling my cousin, and she'd come up like kind of through the day to take my dogs out because I was left there by myself. in drifting snow and had to take my 3 dogs outside, and I couldn't really walk or talk or nothing. So when people say about forgiveness to me, it's easier to forgive a stranger than it is to forgive your own family. So I kept going. I ended up getting home care because I ended up in the hospital for a few days. And in there, they treated me like a piece of shit. I had moments of confusion. My dad was saying about my mom, and I had been confused. He was irritated with me, and they thought I was faking, but I was actually confused. I had surgery, and I could hear them saying my name, but I couldn't. Like, this was when I was in recovery. I couldn't move. I couldn't respond. They were grinding here, but they ended up grinding on the side. They were digging in my feet, my cuticles, and they weren't getting any response. And then when I did come round, I was screaming and crying because I was scared and in so much pain. Doctor put me on pills that would make my hair fall out, caused me more pain than what it was helping me. At this time, I was popping a lot of pills. I was taking more than 7,700 milligrams of ibuprofen a day. That's not including all the Tylenol with codeine that I was taking, or the seizure meds, or the naproxen, or the Advil. And I told my psychiatrist, well, you shouldn't be taking that much stuff. Rito Purisita. It's sort of the exclamation, Purisito Munitipier, Turie. Like, fucking really? In 2019, 3 days before my birthday, I was in Costco. And I've been going unconscious like that. Like, I mean, I like would be there and then I'd drop. And I don't know how many times my head fucking hit the ground and my neck whiplashed. I couldn't walk properly. I couldn't talk properly. I left the hospital and they had to give me a walker. They're trying to say that I had a brain injury. There's something wrong. There's something not right. So before I went down in Costco, and I'll explain that, I was going to the gym with my sister. We started then. at Costco 3 days before my birthday. And I would have to, like, I would be out of breath all the time. Like I was suffocating. And I'd have to, like, get down low to the ground. I needed to be at the ground level. And I would be in a store like this. And my ex-husband would just be like, oh, you stop that. He was with me when we were in Costco. And it was happening there too. Because it had been happening for years, for quite a few years then. But I just had mental health issues. So we were walking around Costco and we got to the food where they were giving samples. He took a sample and he asked me if I wanted a sample. And I said no. And just straight as I said no, I felt, and then I said, I'm done. And then I just went. There's really no warning when it happened, whenever it would happen. I'll get to that. When I went, he grabbed a hold of my arm, and when he grabbed a hold of my arm, it torqued my body. So when it torqued my body, it torqued that arm like that and jolted it because he had a hold of it. He's disabled too. You know, it kind of hurt him. So instead, like, not letting me know that you're going to let me go, well, wouldn't have mattered anyways, or coming around and like kind of letting me down easy, he just let go of me. When he let go of me, where I was already torqued, my body went sideways, my hip slammed into the floor, then my shoulder slammed, but when it slammed, it crossed over my body, it folded me in half. Then my head flopped sideways, my chin and my head smashed to the floor. I was out. And all I could hear was my ex-husband hollering at me saying, Tara, get out of the middle of the fucking floor. You're in the middle of the fucking floor and people are trying to get by you. And I'm unconscious. I can hear everything, feel everything, but I cannot respond to nothing. You know how fucking scary that is? And I know what my ex-husband's trying to do, and you should feel shame. And then I kind of come out, and I was gone again, eyes wide open, no blinking. And the no blinking part would go on for like 15, 20 minutes, you know, even more sometimes. Totally catatonic, no blinking. Hearing everything, feeling everything. It's like somebody give you a fucking drug, you know, they're saying about some singer, but I know nobody was like doing it. Unless, you know, they were in a cloak. But nobody was doing that. It was my brain had a traumatic brain injury. And every time I went down, it got worse and worse. But whenever I go to the doctor, whether they wouldn't even look at it, but they kept saying mental health. So when I went down to Costco and I was like catatonic, eyes wide open, my ex-husband kept, because I had a skirt on or something like that. Or I didn't have a skirt on. He was trying, he kept, for some reason, instead of leaving me lay flat, he was taking my legs and he was pushing them up and trying to cross them. And then because I couldn't hold them, he was hollering, getting mad at me. Come on, Tara, get up. Get the fuck up. Come on. Abusive. Psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because it was on my spirit. It was the whole psyche of it all. He's probably going to think that I started talking about this because when he comes home, he always dismissed me if I wanted to talk and then said, oh, well, psychologists won't work for anybody. They divide them. No, people divide themselves because they don't want to talk. So he kept doing that to me. But he'll think that I'm doing this video because of that. But I actually put a TikTok video up yesterday saying that I was going to go live yesterday and talk about this. But I didn't feel like going on yesterday because I was quite tired. So he was doing that, and then somebody was holding my hand. And when I was kind of coming out of it, what ended up happening is I ended up taking the woman's hand and squeezing it so hard because I was so scared. They tried to set me up. I couldn't pull myself up. That kind of and then they got me in a wheelchair, and I couldn't hold my head up. I just kept falling backwards. My ex-husband kept telling me, "Hold your head up, hold your head up." I can't. Yes, you can. Hold your head up. Told him, don't call the ambulance because he just abused me. Took me in a room, I couldn't hold my head up. My ex-husband was getting at me, and I don't care. I can feel you right now, motherfucker. I was trying, but I couldn't hold my head up. I couldn't speak. Everything was stutter, stutter, stutter. And I'd get frustrated because I'd try to say something and I couldn't talk. It was like a newborn baby. Ambulance contact me over, told him I wasn't going. Still couldn't really walk. My ex-husband wheeled me out. It didn't help much. And then he took me home, dropped me off, and left. I love him, but I really don't like him. Because how somebody, like, and you can't blame it on when he had an addiction to opiates because the doctor wouldn't take him off when he asked to. Well, that was a cruel time. That was right after my car accident. But I went to the hospital with him. I stayed with him. I couldn't drive at the time because of my accident. So I called my mom to come with me, and her and I stayed in the motel till he got discharged from. Well, no, that was after we picked him up at detox. And when he was in detox, they took his medication and they set it on a counter where other addicts could see it. And one of the addicts went in and told him, like, what the fuck are you doing? You got like $10,000 worth of shit there. So he called me to come get him. So whatever happened, I don't know. But when he dropped me off and left, and all he ever did was holler at me. Not in the beginning, but when I started feeling like not such in shock and where I could walk again and start speaking again, I started going to the gym again. I enjoyed going to the gym, and then all of a sudden I just couldn't go no more. My body couldn't do it. My body started deteriorating. I started tasting blood. I started feeling like somebody was squashing me from the inside. My ribs were caving in. My stomach was caving in. I was telling people something was wrong. I went to the hospital in a span of between my family doctor, walk-in clinics, the hospital, emergency, and going to the province next to me. People told me mental health. Go see a psychiatrist. Yeah. Sometimes it was so intense. It felt like my body was on fire, but not a fire. It was like dry ice. Like when you fast freeze. And it was a constant, like, it was like my body was buzzing intensely. I couldn't sleep. I was afraid to sleep. My ex-husband would get frustrated if I said I needed an ambulance. He'd pissed off at me if I needed to go to the doctor. Just basically drop me off or go sit in the truck while I sat in the hospital by myself. It was strangers who sat with me and who kept telling the doctor, the nurses, there's something wrong with her. The nurse would come over and she'd tell me, you gotta breathe. I am fucking breathing. What I was experiencing was it was like a bubble. In the bubble, it was like it was going from this area and it was traveling up. And then it got to my head and it was like a pop. They took me in the room after another 2, 3 hours. I was sitting there for 14 hours. Roughly. She come over and she sat. And the nurse was very patronizing. You gotta breathe. I am breathing. Something just happened. You're having an anxiety attack. It's not a fucking anxiety attack. So they took me in the back after a while, after for, like I said, another 2 hours or so. And they put the heart machine really quickly because my heart was going all, like everything was going all wonky. It was like I was being suffocated. So she kind of got strange and she adjusted things. She did it 5 times without a minute. Oh, well, it's the machine. So she went and got another machine and tried it another 5 times and got nothing and didn't bother anything with it. They did a scan, but they're patronized about that because I know something showed up on the scan, but they fucking sent me home. And then a couple of weeks later, I was back in and I had the blood that I had spit up. I had put it in a bottle and I took it in to emergency. Oh shit. Excuse me, sorry. Oh. If you can bear with me, I have oh yeah, and I had to keep putting a hat on my head because it relieved pressure and that thing that I was saying about it, there was pressure in that last part on the corporal or contour group type injury. It's like inflammation and stuff on the brain. I appreciate you bearing with me because this leads to my awakening. Oh, I know where it's at. Speak out about your experience with the Nova Scotia healthcare system. Go ahead. No matter how much pain I was in, oh yeah, and they bruised me like that. No, not very good lighting, but it was nasty. I have 2 videos on here explaining some of my story, and I don't know what, here it is. Okay. Just excuse me one second. Okay, now the first doctor before him, she was going to do more testing. Okay, the Alana, the social worker, see, once again. I don't know if this is loud enough. Sorry about that. Okay, you sticking up with the name? Okay. Sorry. I heard good music. Yeah, thank you. Good music. Okay, maybe this will work. Okay. Oh, well, that ain't working. Okay. Anyways, if you want to see that, where's the speaker?
Can that show like exhibit signs of anxiety? I was diagnosed with it back in 2015.
So I don't know enough about that, and that's not a real, I don't know enough about it.
Well, I asked because everybody's saying anxiety.
He said heart arrhythmia is not real. That's not real.
Sure. And I think Dr. Gibson would probably be able to answer that better than me, because they don't know enough about the past history, because they don't have all that. Okay. Heart arrhythmia is not really a diagnosis. It's something to just say. That's not a diagnosis. There's different types of arrhythmia, but heart arrhythmia is not a diagnosis.
So then, if it's not a diagnosis, why did they say it?
So
like if it's not a diagnosis, then it's neither here nor there, so it's not applicable.
Sure. Right? So no, I don't disagree with you, but I'm not going to fight with you. Just
well,
saying
I'm not
that.
trying to fight with you.
Sure.
Allegedly.
So we started with our belly pain. So let's go back to the belly pain. So I'm trying to get serious in your abdominal CT scan. I think it's safe to let you go. The heart arrhythmia is about 12 different types of arrhythmias, so I don't know what type they thought you had. So you have to sort of given that's what I was trying to say. It's not a diagnosis in and of itself. There's all different types of heart arrhythmias. We call them dysrhythmias, because atrial fibrillation.
I had it in 2200.
So, any questions about your belly pain?
What do you suppose is causing the belly pain?
Well,
it's not actually just belly pain. It's right into my back and right up my spine.
Sure.
And it comes up into here, right up into here.
So, 30% of the time we never figure out a reason. So the body's mysterious, and sometimes it causes pain. Roll out surgery. Not really sure what's happening, but you don't have obstruction.
So that's from here down?
The whole thing. Not the whole thing.
So, yeah. This.
Yeah. Right down to here. Yeah. And we got a big scan. Got a big expensive test done. All looks good.
Big expensive test.
Well,
way to put it.
No, but it's one of the biggest tests we do at Dr. General. But I think, the doctor before that was necessary. It's great. You got it done.
So what was her name? I never caught her name.
Daha. Last name's Dr. Daha.
Dr. Daha.
So I'm going to get them to take your IV out. I'm going to let you go home. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Okay. Now, a big expensive test. Okay. What the heck?
I started out with an MD here in 1991, and then went on to do my family medicine training in Toledo, and pretty much was in private practice since 1998. And was doing a parallel pathway with private practice and hospital leadership. So I was a chief of staff, a department chair, a peer review chair, all of those things.
Spirit's getting me to bring this up.
Topped out in the leadership space. I was looking for a bridge that would be a credible bridge into academia. This was an opportunity for just to dive in with deep concentration into a space and hopefully come out the other end a well-educated educator. Here I was,
Okay, that's not what I thought it was. Okay, so he says we just did a big expensive test. Seriously? Do we not pay for those big expensive tests? And that's the part where the money should follow the patient. And I give my ex-husband credit for saying that. And I agree with him. So I was going through that. And yes, he was disbelieving me. He kept saying the doctors can't be wrong. Everybody else kept saying the doctors can't be wrong. But see, the thing is, he said 30% of the time they can't find a diagnosis. Well, maybe that's because you're not listening to the fucking patient. Che tu risirà. So after that, I just like, my home care workers would come twice a week. And they were more concerned about me than my own family and the people that said they loved me. Because they wanted to call the ambulance for me. They wanted me to go to the hospital. Because they were seeing it. But I was still helping them get my meals ready, helping them clean up my home. But it was them who was supposed to be doing it for me. They'd even come and stay with me while I had a bath or a shower. Because I was afraid to be in the tub or the shower by myself in case I went unconscious. I remember one time sitting on the couch and it was kind of sitting at the edge and the dogs were around and I went unconscious. And when I went unconscious, I slammed forward and the side of my head slammed on the hardwood floor right on a fucking stud. You could feel the slam and the thud. I had an ice cream sandwich and I couldn't stop my dogs from eating the ice cream sandwich. They unwrapped it and ate it. I found that kind of humorous while I was unconscious, but still aware. And same thing would happen. I was down for about an hour that time. Couldn't holler for help. And then that's when I started throwing up clear acid. And the odd thing was that, I was able to, like, it was like a lot of fluid just coming out. And I was actually blowing big bubbles like that. And it was a clear fluid with crystals in it. And there's actually a picture of it on my Facebook. So I just stopped going to the doctor. I kept helping people. But whenever I showed pain, I was faking. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. But I was dying. I was lifting heavy furniture, helping somebody move some stuff that I had given them. I was still going out to the bar, dancing and singing, because it was what made me happy. And then the night, like leading up, the week leading up, my nephew was very close by, wanting to get me back to Alberta for help. He was watching everything. And I'd be like, go like that, because I was like trying to catch myself. And I'd be seeing things on a different, it's like I was seeing psychically. And I was seeing myself laying in a bed. And my family was there. It was like I could see my niece standing up by my bed. This was happening. One night I was laying on the bed next to my ex-husband, just because I needed to be close to someone. His t-shirt was black, and I started seeing fireworks. It was like looking at the night sky. I was seeing fireworks. And they were like, some were like dancing cartoons. And then all of a sudden, in multicolors, the letters SOS. So I said SOS. So the week leading up, I was trying to catch myself, but experiencing. And I was laying in my bed, and it was like I could feel, it was like I was going in my bed. And sometimes it felt like I was falling off my bed. It was just like, I'd be laying in my bed, and I'd be seeing like somebody holding the door open, and people coming in and out. People, like some people I didn't even know, but my mom and my second oldest sister were sitting at the foot of my bed, and this little blonde girl come running in. And because they was seeing this, I just yelled out, "Get the fuck out of my room," or "Get the fuck out," or something. And my nephew asked me, "Who are you talking to?" So next day, I went out. He had come over. He kept coming over. And all day I'm just sitting there, and I have no energy. It was just there. And I was sitting on the couch, going like that, and going like that. And then I just laid down. And when I laid down, it's when I didn't get up again. And I could feel myself dying. And at one point, I heard my nephew and my son come in my apartment. And my nephew said, "Oh, well, your mother's still sleeping." And I heard that, and I couldn't say anything. And then I started seeing a light. There's a light in the distance, and then it got bigger, 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 and then it started duplicating. Went from one light to two lights, and then to three, and then it went 3, 6, 9, and it just bright. It was like you were going into the sun. It was extremely bright. But when I was going, because I was fighting it, Spirit kept telling me, kept telling me, "Tara, you gotta let go, honey. You gotta let go." And as I let go, it was like so peaceful. It was just like, but apparently I made an agreement to go back. Because I didn't finish my purpose. I didn't get done what I wanted. But they wouldn't let me remember what I seen. I seen heaven and hell. Heaven was like looking at a bright blue sky, and there's so many earth planets as far as the eye can see. It's fucking cool. But in order to get there, I had to go through, like, it was a weird journey. It's like it's that part of the remembering. But when I come back, I seen something. It was like it was a part of me, a piece of me. Then I jumped off the couch and I ran in and I got dressed. And I went out to the bar to sing and dance. I kept getting, like, when I was going through it, I kept getting, like, and I was at the bar, there would be a guy there that I knew. Pretty cool shit. I would get him to take and pull my arm for me because when he pulled my arm, it felt good. I just heard dislocated. Okay, I just heard that's why it felt good, because my arm was dislocated. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So after that, I decided I had to go back to Alberta. And I went back and shit was going on. I didn't feel safe where I was. I was behaving inappropriately at times. I was trying to get home and I couldn't get home. Every time I talked, people would scream at me. So I'd get frustrated and I'd scream because I kept telling them, I want to come home. I need to come home. So I ended up calling the police to get me out of the place I was in. And I ended up going to a motel until I could get a flight home. Thanks to my ex-husband. Yes, he did help me. He'll help me financially when he can, if he can. But the worst part about it is he doesn't give me the time to be appreciative. Because it always came with holding it against me. So I'm not telling to throw shit at people. It's my story for the pathway to how I'm getting to where I am today and where I'm going to be in the future. So I come back from Alberta. And when I got back from Alberta, that's when they had put the lockdowns on. So I had to get a cab from the airport. Nobody come and pick me up. I had to get a cab from the airport. And then when I got home, I had to stay home. I didn't think that was right. I didn't think it was right with regards to lockdowns because it caused a lot of pain and suffering, psychiatric, mental health issues, depression, created anxiety. It created a whole bunch of mental health issues. And then they wonder why you have fucking mental health problems today. You overloaded them so you could do this. Fresh air was what people needed. Not to be cooped up in a house. Not to be told that they have to shut their small businesses down while your big fucking box stores are opened. And liquor stores, had to have liquor stores open so that people could go get their alcohol and drugs, right? A lot of what was causing the problems and creating more. Abuse rates went up. Suicidal rates went up. Rapes, everything. Child abuse. Putting families against each other because one person didn't want to wear a mask or the other person didn't want to get the needle. It irritated me because I said it's patriarch out of duty. And then I'm going to now. I was watching a young woman, and I've watched her a few times, her live videos. And I see where she's coming from, but it's that part of like, she was talking about who you were going to vote for. And see, the thing was, people were talking about their rights. They were talking about carbon tax, climate change, immigration, division, when they stopped the truckers' protest and seized people's bank accounts and sometimes took kids from them and then put in the Emergency Act. It's abuse of authority. And, you know, acts of crimes against humanity and terrorism. And I looked into it, and, you know, it's a part of, like, you know, some will take offense to this and others won't if you actually understand the point I'm making. Okay? Because it was to create division. Okay? Because your prime minister was nowhere really to be found when they had the trucker protest, a peaceful protest. And then some bad apples get in. My sister and my nephew were there, so they said it was quite peaceful. Everybody standing around the fire, people coming up and asking them if they wanted to be healed by praying for them and what have you. It was the ones that wanted to make the protest look bad that put in some people, paid actors. So they said it was this and that, and your prime minister would say that people are homophobic and that anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers. If people take offense to this, then you don't fucking understand what it is, the point I'm making. So he's nowhere to be found for that. People fighting for their rights and freedoms, right? But didn't his father have something to do with something like that too? Okay, so that was for their rights and freedoms. Your prime minister was nowhere to be found. He throws you in lockdown. Okay, they say about the horns and what have you. What's happening now? And I will get to that. But see, people say about him playing blackface. Okay, so he was playing blackface, but when they had the Black Lives Matter, which I understand because every life matters. Okay, they had the Black Lives Matter because they say about like black people being beat and what have you. And I actually understand where they're coming from with that. Okay, but see, your prime minister was at the Black Lives Matter. Okay. And then he was at the Pride. Okay. See, that's where you can get division. Okay. People protesting for the rights and freedoms. Okay. Which is everyone, no matter what color, what religion, what gender. Okay. So he put Black people and Pride people to somewhat become a target. Okay. Because they even talked about transgender. Okay. Transgender is really like sometimes going between genders, sometimes being of the physical body of one sex, but feeling like you're the other, and then you go mutilate your body. I'm going to say that. Okay. And I say that, you know, if you feel you have to mutilate your body, it's the part of you're just like, in order to act a certain way, you feel that you have to look a certain way. So if you feel like you're a man internally, you feel like you have to cut off your breasts or take hormone pills or whatever they are. Okay? If you're a man or a woman, or sorry, a man, but you're in a woman's body. Yeah, okay. Okay. If you're a man and you feel like you're a woman, you take the hormone pills to give yourself breasts. Some men will tape it back. And I don't know if some men will actually go have it removed. Now, some will just look like men and wear dresses and a bit of makeup or what have you. Okay. Now, what I want people to do is look back when they said in the time of Christ, okay, in those times, they were wearing kilts, longer gowns. So basically different forms of dresses, correct? See, I see things as I'm neither male. I have a female body. Okay, so I'm a female body. Okay. I can have a baby as a female. Okay. What have you. Okay. This is where things get touchy for some people. Okay. It's like when you balance out and you center, it's like your heart and your brain comes together. So your masculine and feminine begin to work together. So you can use either role as to your advantage. And that is the two-spirited. You can how do I put it? When you look at things on a mental scale, okay, brain scale, okay, way of thought, okay, you can be a woman and work and use your masculine and do what a masculine can do. Men will say, well, they're not physically built for it. That's where you're wrong. Because with a female will more so use her mental capabilities in lifting things. And men tend to use more of their physical. Okay. Have you ever tried to lift something with just your physical body? Okay. And then try to lift something. You're using your physical body, but you're putting your mind into your body. So it enhances your ability to do it. Okay. Ancient times, you know. You wondered how they could do it? Well, they'd levitate it, or they'd use sound, like they'd use sound. But you don't believe that? That's fine. Go back and look and actually put yourself in that moment. Thank you. So when you're two-spirited, you can like take on the mother role with the children It's the universal. The unity is, first off, the unity of yourself. And when it's yourself, others are witnessing what you're experiencing, what you're going through. Some look at me like I'm crazy, psychotic, what have you. But that's just a label. It's not the actual diagnosis. Because the actual diagnosis for most, if not all, psychiatric disorders are caused from spiritual health, which is the heart and brain connecting together. And that's where the unity comes from. You say heaven and earth, moon and sun. The star signifies your light. Heaven, earth, and universe. I look at, what's the other, not last year, but the year before. I was sitting and I was looking at my Christmas tree. Sometimes I have white lights on it. One year I had purple or blue. But this year I had colored light bulbs on. I was sitting there and I was looking at it. Because stars are like, some of the stars are different colors. So I was looking at it and I started realizing that I was looking at heaven and earth. The tree represented the earth and the lights represented the heavens, the skies. I thought that was cool. Because then I realized that it's the lights. It's like the universe. But back to the trucker things and stuff like that. Okay. They were talking about people losing their jobs because of the vaccines. Okay. And this young woman was agreeing with it being okay, that it was forced on people. She thought it was okay that they seized people's bank accounts. She's for transgender. I know that. And I know and I understand with regards to saying about your present prime minister. See, he's deliberately doing that to cause division, to cause you to be fighting with other people over this stuff. Because the other person was saying to her about rights and freedoms. But she wasn't understanding it when she said that it's okay. She thinks that we're in a world of that we have rights and freedoms, but yet she's saying that, yes, you should lose your job because you didn't get the needle. Okay? Or yes, you should have had your thing seized because it was like, it wasn't a peaceful protest, but it was. It's like, were you really there? Because I know 2 people that were. Now, the transgender. Okay. To me, it's a part of really actually finding that you're actually experiencing two-spirited, because sometimes, whether you're aware of it or not, you take on the opposite sex, the roles. If you weren't trying to create division, and if you were really a true leader, you wouldn't be on either side or in either protests. And I say that because you're supposed to be unbiased. You're not supposed to be, you're supposed to be coming to a solution. So you create propaganda. That was another thing. Okay. They were talking about the carbon tax. She thinks it should be in place because of climate change. And somebody else was saying about the trees. We need 30 billion trees. And we have 300 billion for us to be at zero. I'm just repeating what he said. And I heard that a number of times by not just him, but ones in the field. Okay. See, climate change has been around forever. Okay. The reason why you feel like it's climate change in that sense, okay, is because, okay, climate change is volcanoes going off, tornadoes, tsunamis, earthquakes, what have you. Snowstorms, white wand, hailstorms. Okay. I want you to think of it this way. Okay. They say with the fuels, right? Okay, you're getting them from ground, right? Okay. So think of it this way. If you're the earth, okay, and you have something drilling in you, what's happening? Okay, and then it's going through you, what's happening? It's leaving an opening. Okay. So tell me something. If somebody drilled a hole right through you here, would your body stay together? Now, think of them drilling the holes into the earth. What are they doing? They're disrupting. So things are getting looser and they're breaking away, even within the earth. Okay. You have your fracking. Okay. It's releasing different gases, but what it's actually doing is it's stirring everything up and digging into the ground, which is making it even more unsturdy. Especially when it naturally does a shift. So think of like your cities and stuff like that. You got all the piping, you got all these holes and everything through the ground, and you wonder why you're getting sinkholes. That's your climate. They keep. How many of you knew that there was a guy in the 80s that built a car and it ran on water? One built it on grease. Back in the 1800s, early 1900s, they had electric cars then. This is not new stuff. This is actually the old stuff that they took out of your sight so that you would think it was new. But they'll use propaganda and they'll censor us. Don't you step out of line. Fuck you, I'll dance. To use propaganda, okay? And see, people say that they put it right in your face. And they do. But they tell you it's fiction. That, oh no, that didn't really happen. Or fantasy. But it's actually, oh shit. True. Maybe it's not going to let me sign in. No, it's not going to let me do that. But there was an article in, I believe, The Guardian. And it was saying about how your government, your military, was looking into creating an organization to use propaganda against the people. That was in like, I think, I don't know if it was, bring the article up. They said it was around about March 2020 or thereabouts, because it was when I got back from Alberta, and I had somebody like talking to me and telling me stuff that was going on. So I started looking into this stuff. I started taking things and decoding them, which I told you, spirit gets me all over the place. Which when I decoded something, okay, how many of you know how Trump would talk about the numbers 17 and 47? And he's even said about the number 29 sometimes. Okay. I've heard that. I've heard him refer even sometimes 28. Okay. Oh no, that's somebody else. That's in the science part. They said, so 29, if you decode it with the alphabet and you number it, it represents AI. When you decode 17, it gives AG. and 47 gives DG. Okay? So I did a little chart. Okay? 29, I had artificial intelligence. For 17, AG, agentum, this is in science, silver, atomic number 47. Oh. Oh shit. I got my notepad and I really had to scroll. You know you're using too many computers when you're fucking scrolling your paper. Military, it means personnel people for Army, AG, officer manager, all personnel systems within the Army that impact on anti-readiness, moral, and career patterns. It also means antigen in biology, single antigen. Oh shit, I can't even read my own writing. Well, that's because sometimes it's not always in my writing. Do you ever notice that when you're writing, it doesn't always look the same? Sometimes it's different. It's like you use different writing styles. It's because you're channeling other parts of spirit that has used those writings. I caught that. I didn't like that, eh? DG, 47 DG, stands for by the grace of God. Military, distinguished graduate, police, director general, continued, 47 DG, in science, diagram and metric systems, distance, geometry, energy, disrupted generation, electricity, destructitude, energy, solar panels, windmills, small wind turbines, fuel cells, energy storage systems. Okay. Donald Trump went on and said that every 9 years you have to change the turbines. Change them. But I went in and I looked, and it said that they usually have a lifespan of 30 years. Okay. But see, the thing is, I see the part of it causing a problem for the birds. Okay. So you're digging into the ground for the fuels. You're digging into the ocean for different fuels. You're fracking. You're drilling. You're digging. You're tearing up. You know, think of your arm hairs as being trees, or your hair, any piece of hair on your body. Think of it as being a tree and it having a root. You take tweezers and pluck your eyebrows. Doesn't feel good, does it? Leaves a red mark, doesn't it? But see people just think, oh, well, but see, the thing is, you don't have to be doing all that. I was watching a thing on TikTok and they were talking about treaties. How many treaties have ever really worked? If you go watch the movie Frozen 2, yes, I do refer to these. In Frozen 2, Elsa went to find out the truth about her family. Because she woke up the spirits. And it was dividing them by a bridge, okay, which was a dam. Cutting off their water supply. Putting them on land and then cutting off their water supply. And when Elsa went and what she seen was her grandfather kill her mother's family chief. And it was because it was a treaty and it was said that, oh, we're putting it in for your own good. But it was because he wanted to control. They had access to magic, and he said magic was bad because the earth was the spirits, the holders of the magic in that sense, because it's energy and it's forever moving. Okay. Have you ever experienced your own energy before? And when I say, have you ever experienced your own energy, it's like been able to just feel yourself expanding. It's like you could put your hands together like this and just sit with yourself and just experience your body, just your body. Explain to yourself what you're feeling. Yeah. Have you ever felt electrical current going through your body? You feel your blood pulsing sometimes, do you not? That's energy. It's energy pumping through your body. It's electricity pumping through your body because the waters and the nerves, which are your electrical system, look at the wiring harness. I'm live. Okay. Okay. Have you ever experienced anything that felt like a transformer went off in your body? It was just like something electrocuted you and it just like. Okay. Because I'm going to in 2021, I went in the psychiatric unit because of a spiritual experience I was having. It was pretty fucked up, man. I'm talking, I just felt like I wasn't doing yoga or anything like that. I was really coming into my spiritual awakening on an intense level. Okay. Because I was having peripheral stuff and I was having total realizations and experiencing things of getting story, like what actually transpired within those times. And at one point, I'm going to do this because this is going to be okay. It wasn't so much this part I'm going to explain that got me in the psychiatric unit, but it was a piece of it because I was experiencing a lot at once. And it was reminding me of different things I had watched or seen, just experiencing it. Well, the first part was like, okay, the Bible. Okay, I'm going to use that for example. Well, it's not an example. It's what I experienced. See, it's when they say they know not what they do or say, it's because sometimes you have spirits that will step into someone to relay a message or say something. Okay, so what I experienced was somebody that was there. Okay. What ended up happening was this person was telling me you know how everyone's like when you say about Judas and Jesus Christ, Yeshua, however you refer to him, okay? They said about Judas turning Jesus, Yeshua, what have you, in, okay? What I was getting was that it's okay. They didn't know that was going to happen. But what I got was that they were going to kill Judas's family. That's what I got now. I'm just saying, I'm allowed to say what I got. But it was said that Judas didn't know that they were going to do that. Because I watched a thing that they had on with regards to that, and Judas killed himself. Okay. So I may remember the others, but I'm getting that was the main one that needed to come out. So we're talking about Frozen and going and seeing what happened. Okay. Now, I know that there's two forms of the timeline, okay? As they talk about it right now. So I watched a thing on TikTok of an interview with an indigenous. He was a Hopi, part of the Hopi. And they were in Arizona. So Arizona is Mexico, right? Okay. So in it, he said that what was going to happen was a man in a red hat was going to show up. Okay. And everybody sees that man in the red hat as being Donald, as being Trump, right? Okay. So he also said about a red gown. But see, don't know that because, okay, think of it this way. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Saying we're living two timelines. Okay. Donald Trump, when he came in the first time, did he not want the wall, a big one, separating Mexico from the States? Do you ever think that maybe it's because the States actually done Mexico, the Hopi, wrong, and you never want that person in your home because you don't want truth to come out? It said a lot about what we were going to experience, and that a lot of different inventions and technologies were going to come out. But what he said at the beginning was that we built everything and we forgot about what it was like to live with land. Not on it and not off it, to live with it. Okay. Some don't get it. Like it, I'm not saying don't build things. But what I'm saying is we rely too much on the exterior things or other people to give us answers that we already have within us. And I help others to find those answers for themselves. Because if you don't teach them how to find the answers for themselves, then all they're going to do is, play the school game where you just remember things. It becomes a repetitive because you study for it. Whereas experiencing it is many different possibilities. And I'm going to say, because I found it very wrong, I also have a thing where Trump is talking about global warming, and then he says he says a sentence, and everybody says, "Oh, well, everybody makes mistakes." But when you make a mistake like this, and everybody's already suspicious of it, it's like this was not a mistake. But I caught that. And I was on TikTok and I seen a video like when he was talking about this. And then he said about communist platforms Is he not on TikTok? Yes, yeah. It's a question I'm allowed to ask, right? You know, it's just like when you catch stuff like that. It's the part of like actually listening to them. Shit. Excuse me one sec. Shoot. Holy snapping. Might help if I can get my cord right. Okay. You guys can bear with me for a minute because I need to plug my phone in. I had it plugged into something, but it just didn't work well for me. Oh, well, shit. Okay. There we go. Sorry. Oh, dang. Yeah, probably. Okay. I'm still on? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Technical difficulties, people. Weren't we talking about that? Okay. So I'm not throwing shit at him. I'm just saying, you know, like, aren't you a little bit hypocritical? Okay. Oh, feels good. Cracking your bones, do it. So, okay, now. So I spoke about the decoding. Personally, I do not feel like we should have a carbon tax because you're already taxed enough. You're already being taxed for that. They just put it on again and said, oh, you're being taxed for it, but you're already taxed from it. You're already taxed for it. You're just, you know, getting you from behind. And people may not like me for saying that, but, you know, it's how I see it. Whether you see it the same or not. So they were talking about on this young woman's channel about the COVID vaccines. She thought, oh, yes, you should have to have it. So, yes, you should have to be forced to have it, basically, is what you're saying, right? Okay. So, no. Okay. Because people were manipulated into getting them. Told, oh, it's your patriotic duty, or, you know, and this girl was saying it. Basically, you know, you got to get the needle to protect someone else. You got to put the mask on to protect somebody else. Why aren't you like protect somebody else? The needle's not to protect somebody else, or the mask wasn't to protect somebody else. That was to protect you. I was told I couldn't live somewhere because I didn't have the needle. It's like it destroyed families. It destroyed friendships. It destroyed romantic relationships, every type of business relationships. It affected people's lives on a massive scale. And you tell me that it was good for people? Did you have anybody in your family die from it? Only doctors won't admit that that's what they died from. They'll say what caused. They'll say a word, a diagnosis that is actually being caused by the vaccine. Paradoxus. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Paradoxus. Thank you. I had a family member pass from that, but some are still in denial of it. But that's what happened. The doctor tried to say like that he had heart problems before that, and he did not. He had asthma, but he didn't have a heart problem, and he grew out of that. See, my dad thought that it was that one that had the heart problems, but no. And I tried telling my dad, no, it was actually my son, my youngest son, because it was the part of he was very small, and then he took a massive growth spurt. And when he took that massive growth spurt, it didn't give his chest time to develop. So it created what they call a pigeon chest. And I had him to a doctor and stuff like that, the specialist. And they said that they were going to just let it go. But if it was causing him problems, like by the time he was 25, that he'd have to get the surgery then, because that's the time that your body physically and mentally stops growing. So I had him doing this a lot. Here, chest pump. And he had, because of his growth spurt, he had stretch marks on his back that people would go around saying that to him, that his mother whipped his back, that those were whip marks. And they do look like whip marks. And it's like, is it showing scars of how people passed? Because that's what they say. It helps to remember. So it was my son, but it was another family member that died from the paradoxus. And I would love to see, like, you don't have to do nothing, but I would love to see the family become part of the lawsuit. And I'm not saying for the money. I'm saying for the principle. But that little one that was left behind deserves that money. And the family deserve justice. And any family like them. That there is all what that did was against everybody's rights and freedoms. It's in the Criminal Code, the Constitutional Act. I tried to get on with this girl, young woman. Sorry, I won't call her a girl because she's a young woman. She's just quite frustrated and understandable. So she thought that was okay, but it's against people's rights and freedoms. And it's right here in the Criminal Code. And I tried to get on because I wanted to ask her if she would believe the Criminal Code, because she said everything else was not evidence, even though it was still at a touch of her button. See, the thing is, they know where you are within your algorithms. They know who you'll go for because they're the ones that will say something. Well, to the Pride people, about transgender, sometimes I've been wondering if I wanted to be with women, but oh, wait a minute. I have been with women before, maybe not in a relationship. And if anybody's embarrassed by me coming forward and saying that, oh, well, that's on you, because I'm not. Okay. So Pocket Criminal Code 2004 includes forms and charges. Constitutional Act 1982. Okay, guarantee of rights of freedoms. Rights and freedoms in Canada. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the rights and freedoms set out in the subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by law. Okay. Who deems things reasonable? So if it doesn't work for your agenda, it's not reasonable? Because I know a few people like that. And I have to say, are you my ex-husband? And that's too, because my ex-husband does that. And I know other people that do that. And he tells me I hate men. No, I don't hate men. I want to blurt out of my mouth that, and it's true, because to me, a man is somebody who is sensual, understanding, compassionate, someone who can be both their masculine and feminine and be comfortable in their skin. That to me is a man. The other ones could behave like a boy, or, some could say man-child. And in my spiritual awakening, I have been realizing that a lot of young men, when they're in an abusive home, they hear a lot of the word boy, because that's the way it comes out with my ex-husband sometimes when he's being a real butthole. Uranus. So fundamental freedoms. Fundamental freedoms. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms. freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. But they're censoring us. I did a video with regards to that, just a quick one. They're trying to censor us all the time. And the reason why they'll censor us and they'll use propaganda is because they're hiding things. They're hiding something. Freedom of peaceful assembly. Okay, to that young lady, young woman, a peaceful assembly. They had a right to be there. In some countries, when they had the Black Lives Matter, the same thing was happening because people were going in and robbing stores and burning places down. And as far as with the pride, but I see pride differently as when you get into a full-blown mindset of transgender to the point where you figure people are being homophobic. I was watching a video where a group of people were standing there, and I believe they had been talking about God, and these young children dressed and up front with regards to transgender, they were barking at these people. Sit with that. Not being rude. I'm saying that I understand with regards to the transgender. And I know when things are being infiltrated and people are trying to cause shit and problems. It makes it hard for transgender, gay communities, however you put it, even straight people. It makes it very difficult because you're throwing shit at each other. And it's like, how fucking old are you people? When somebody says that they're transgender because they're a bully man that wants to get into a woman's bathroom and say, oh, well, I'm going to punch my way in. You're not transgender. You're phony. And I don't mean it in that form of a way. It come out that way, yes. Because it means you're fucking lying to yourself about something. And you're angry and aggressive. And maybe it's against women. Or maybe maybe you're one of the lost angels that God came to save. Or see if you wanted help because you weren't born this way. And I'm not talking about transgender. Everybody was born two-spirited. That's why, like, they're trying to understand, but, you know, there's touching to understand. And then there's something that when, you know, if they're doing something different, you might want to look into it. And that's what I said about, like, people are going and getting this stuff done at the age of 16, 18. Some are even getting their kids mutilated because your doctor says that, do you want your child to kill himself? Do you not get it? It's a medical procedure. It's a sterilization. They talked about abortion. See, oh yeah, and the last one was freedom of association. Now, I'm going to read, because some people didn't hear this, but your democratic rights, okay? Maximum duration of legislation, bodies. No House of Commons and no legislative assembly shall continue for longer than 5 years from the date fixed for the returns of the rights of general election of its members. And then Constitution in special circumstances. In time of real or anticipated war, invasion, or intersection, a House of Commons may be continued by Parliament if each continuation supposed the voice. Okay, so do you not realize that they created the war in the election, when they had that quick election with Trudeau, your prime minister now? A lot was said about that election. And it came right at COVID. How convenient. You know, in this young woman's channel, she asked the question of, why are you voting for Pierre Poilievre, or however you pronounce his name? Okay. That's why I wanted to go on. Because if I were to vote, right now I don't see where I would vote for either one of them. Because, do you notice they never act like they're working together? They never work together on things. Always one sublime to the ridiculous. Far left, far right. But they're supposed to be in the center in order to work for the people. But all they're doing is shit slinging and saying what they're going to do. But they do that all the time. If I voted, who I voted for would really be not your business, because that's the problem. It was always supposed to be private. And this part about like prime ministers or presidents or what have you being able to get private funding for their election. No. They should not be allowed. And I will agree with my ex-husband on this, because he brought it forward to me that what needs to be done is that no private funding at all. You take what is given to you by the taxpayers' dollars, and that's all you have to use. Because what you're doing is you're buying a specific group of people. See, the thing is, most people, they know this. And I have to ask, why don't you speak up about it? And if you do speak up about it and you feel you're not heard, well, don't stop. But it's a part of, like, really sitting with it and actually seeing the pieces of the puzzle, and you do a lot of cross-referencing. I was working on my genealogy, and holy shit, man, you talk about friggin' cross-referencing. My mind was friggin' blown right off. It was like, holy snapping arseholes, what the fuck is going on here? It's like, glitch man, holy shit. Head pop. That felt good. I'll share that. Like, I was saying about having the brain injury, and what ended up happening is I was going through something after I started decoding stuff. And I was experiencing very similar to what I still have to explain. Now I know. I ended up going to the psychiatric unit because I felt like I was behaving like a wild animal. I mean, like, not hurt, like just like the snarling, and just, it was fucked up, man. Like, I was going for I was going for deer meat raw. But that's part of the spiritual awakening, because you're experiencing different versions of yourself. So they shouldn't be allowed to have private funding, like I said, because they're buying the people. They're buying votes. They're using billions of dollars. But I always thought, like, when you voted, should it be someone that they choose, or should it be someone that you vote in? Because it seems to be that, you vote the prime minister in or president in, and they pick their party who works with them. But shouldn't it be the people doing that? That way it's not stacked against the deck. They never like to play fair on the playground, do they? Siguro siya like ito mo rin ito yung isinude. Alam ko to yan. Sito, shkoisa, sisiro dito. Sito yan. Alep tito please sito ito yan. Sisira, siya, isko mo siya. Kibuto siya ito sito. No to ya, kiddo. Okay, so it's true. I had somebody say about Trump being a good businessman. Well, people would probably say, oh, well, Trudeau's a good businessman, but yet the Shark Tank guy, Kevin O'Leary, says that he can't manage worse shit. And that's public. It's the part of not just going out and introducing yourself. Oh, so. It's about actually getting to know the people's needs on more of a actually hearing the people, because you can put yourself in that position. Hearing what the people need and not your greed, and not to give you a fancy house to live in when you're getting fucking 300 grand a year to live off of. Meanwhile, people are living in fucking tents and under trees and in gutters. You know, there's a lot of talk about, you know, you got these containers going on trains, on the ships. Did you ever put it together? People say, oh, well, that's not really. Okay. All of a sudden, the shipping containers and the post office, well, one is already in strike. And they just pulled right out. They just put everything to a halt. Or wonder why, like, it's really to a halt. The same as the post office. Didn't they just do that like a year or so ago? But there's talk again about shutting it down. I was watching a thing where at one point back in the 1800s or thereabouts, what they were doing was they were shipping kids through the postal service. You know, they ship everything else, right? You know, people are talking about the trafficking. It doesn't go on your mainstream media. But that's that's the abuse. Because, you know, some of these people are involved. I think there was a news guy that got released from the news for sexual harassment or something like that. There's been a child gone missing here, where I'm at. See, it's that part of what happened. Was it an accident? And then scared? Or was it something else? See, the thing is, they say sometimes the answers don't come, but the answers actually do. It's something usually comes up to the surface. Because sometimes it's that you feel like you can't live with yourself for it, or you drink yourself or drug yourself into oblivious so that you don't have to face it. Because it's an eternal torment. No matter what way one looks at that. See, I said yesterday that I was going to say about like why I come off as a bitch or so bitter sometimes. It's because I'm releasing the pain. I can't talk to them because I get shut down. But when I come on the platform or what have you, and right now I have 2 screens, so I'm not seeing you, but I'm seeing the reflection of myself. Because it's those 2 parts of yourself working through it with each other. That's why I've told people, if you're struggling, go talk to yourself. Record yourself as if you're talking to someone in the same shoes as you. What advice would you give them? Because I know that most people in those instances, they'll give good advice because it's something they want to do for themselves. They just don't take the advice. Guilty for that. But now I'm starting to, because I talk to myself more often. Not just more often, I talk to myself all the time. And I tell myself off too. So, you know, good day. Yeah, I do like bob sometimes because my body, the energy is going through it right now, and it's kind of jolting me. It's like really spastic. So how did I get over my brain injury? I died, and I come back, and I started listening to frequencies. But what actually ended up happening was at Easter of 2020. I was experiencing some things where I was like even trying to tear my body apart. That was the first experience with regards to animalistic, like what have you. It was like something trying to tear me apart. Sometimes I felt like I was being bitten. When I held my energy and I tapped into my own energy within my body, and I just started manipulating it. What I was doing was I was cramping up every part of the left side of my body, my organs and all. I was taking and I was just cramping them up and kind of crushing them because it was making this part of the entity feel human pain. So while I was doing this, wasn't aware that I was like the one doing it, because it was like I was in my own head. And I kind of, it was like when you tell a child to hide and stay there and stay still, my body could feel it. But then all of a sudden when I let go, I hollered, God help me. And at the moment that I hollered, God help me, it was like a flash of light, or I didn't see a chain light. I just seen a flash. And my body just started moving as if it was electrocuted on an extremely high voltage, intense level, where the whole inside of my head was just like a vibrator on a massive scale. I didn't think I was going to make it alive. And then I got through that and I said, I'm ready again. And I got hit again. And that first time was about 5 minutes. Second time was about 2 minutes. And after that, that's when I started like experiencing different things. And I looked up about the tarot and stuff like that. And I found a man one on there, and it asks like, what do you want answers to? And it had love, family, health, and money, and all that stuff. I chose health, because without health, you struggle to have healthy relationships. Trouble working. So I chose health. And then I paid for this thing. I thought I was getting something in the mail. So I paid for this thing thinking I was getting something in the mail. And I was in bed, and all of a sudden I woke, like I had drifted off, and I woke up to what sounded like shamanic drumming. And my body was feeling it. It was feeling good. And it was like I was drawn to it. And I went out, and I had nothing on. So I realized I got into frequencies, and there was a guy on here. He does our everyday lives. And then there was a young woman. Oh my gosh. Ireland Clark, thank you. Okay. They actually helped with my awakening. And I really appreciate it. Because I watched them, and I seen the one side, and then I seen the other side. She was more of the, like a lot of the mystical and what have you. And he was more of the, like, shake your shit out of you and wake you up. So, and then there was Nikola Tesla. Very much Nikola Tesla too. But Nikola Light, she was one of the ones too, because watching her, and like I could speak the language, but she was giving me a lot of codes, and I just started moving and speaking more. She speaks a different form of light language than I do. I speak whatever language spirit gives me. Ikitikutuhusunlaha nuko anahan nikihaha shukuhua su umataania ikum yada hisanaya koea. And there are other ones. There's tarot readers. There's ones that bring different things forward. I get a lot of information by watching people on here. When people are telling their story, it's actually helping others to relate to what it is that you bring forward. It's not about making aggression and division. It's about seeing other people, seeing that your hearts radiate much the same, but your mind can keep you divided. And I'm not saying all the time, because that's really when you collaborate and you come together and you talk, then it all starts coming together. But a lot of us were just yelling over one another or not wanting to hear each other's side. Because by what I've been going through and looking into, I've just seen a lot of, we're all doing it to each other. And I'm talking about countries, states, what have you, however, even territories. We fight because they want to keep you against one another because they're enemies. But why are they enemies? And see, that's what people aren't looking for. They're just like, they're not looking into the seed where it began. And that's what the movie Frozen 2 was bringing forward within the what we perceive to be the white community and the Indian community, Native community. African American community, whatever community you feel you belong to, because in all actuality, we all belong to one community. We've just been divided. So it's that part of bringing everyone together and saying, you know, like if you're when you push something in someone's face who doesn't understand it, it's not going to make them understand anymore. And I know sometimes it's like people say, well, you come off this way or that way. Sometimes it's because I understand what I'm talking about, what I'm saying. So it's that part that I get frustrated if people don't understand it, because it makes so much sense, but everything else is saying the same thing, only it's overcomplicating it. And people like myself, we come forward and we give it straight up. And it may not make sense, and people may be giving us stuff that we didn't know. It's that part of coming together and talking about things and really seeing the bigger picture of it all. Because then you're sharing stories and you can put the pieces of the puzzle together. But you know, I don't have a university degree. But did God? And I'm not talking Jesus, Yeshua, Christ, however you perceive him, because there were many like him. But they weren't called, they were different forms of a Bible. And we're saying about what the COVID shot. Okay, I want people to think back when World War I ended, around World War I, right? I think it was 1918 to 1919. They had the Spanish flu. Much like COVID, right? They call it a pandemic. Because then, wasn't there also something in World War II? They were committing, well, it was actual genocide then too. In the Spanish flu, because they were given all this stuff, had to do the same thing as what we're told today. So you're reliving the Spanish flu. They just called it something different. But did you know that it came from the military? And isn't it full-blown mandatory for the military to get every vaccine going? You know, I had a vision when I was laying on my couch and I was I was asleep, but I wasn't asleep. And what I was witnessing is my ex-husband was there, but there was somebody else there with him. And they looked very much the same, but they were not human. They were like really much smaller. And I actually visualized it as being an army. Okay, so I was laying on my couch and I was witnessing this, and they were vibrating like a light, like something had hit them, kind of like what I described. Okay, but they were going from this being to human to being to human. Okay. And I was getting a little freaked out, and I was trying to move away from the couch. Like I was actually could feel myself moving on the couch, trying to push back. And my mom and there was a male. I was hearing a male too, and they were telling me it's okay. You just gotta just observe, just watch. So it was very strange. This, like I said, this is my path. It was the path to my awakening. These are my experiences. So is somebody going to say, oh, well, no, that's not science because my ex-husband told me. But an experience is another form of science because you're actually experiencing it. You're not, you're experiencing it yourself, your whole embodiment, your physical, your emotional, your psychological and mental and spiritual light body is experiencing it. And once I learned that that's what I was experiencing, that was what I was going through, I was able to just move through things. Not hold it in anymore, because when you hold it in, that's when you get the implosion of what people are experiencing right now from me. It's not about being mouthy or ignorant or anything like that. It's that part of, I just got to the point where, someone told me sometimes you got to just speak like them. So, I guess I'm talking to you the way you talk to me. So, you don't like me talking to you like that. So I have to say, why the fuck do you think it's okay for you to talk to me like that or treat me like that? But see, the difference is I'm not going to treat you like that. I may talk a certain way. It's like, it's like I wasn't a bad kid, but it was a free thinker. When we were younger and you were Gen X or what have you, however people put it, we were getting slaps on the ass with belts and spoons and everything. Okay. So like my dad, he would try, like if I'd get in trouble, my dad would try to spank me with the belt, and I'd just take and put my hand behind, and then I'd catch the belt, I'd grab it, and I'd run. So he wouldn't really hit me. He wasn't abusive. And that's what they learned. So it's bringing that out by the mindset that we put on our children. I posted a video on my Facebook about a little girl on TED Talk, and she was saying about like the development of a child from the time they're born to the age of 5, of how much they absorb. And a lot of it is the play and the affection. You neglect them, like seriously. Their minds are always going. They need that attention. And when you're being put into the workforce and you're being taken away from your child, whether it be the workforce or by an electronic, it's that part of every person comes in here all knowing. It's us who makes them stupid or makes each other stupid in that sense. And I don't mean in the intellectual, I mean like stupid to our own abilities. Ignorant to them, I'll put it. Sorry. That's a better word, because I know how a lot of people get when you say the word stupid, because people will abuse you by telling you you're stupid. Because nobody's stupid. They may do something that just doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to them at the moment. It doesn't make them stupid. Maybe it makes you ignorant to what they learned or experienced or heard. I've had a lot of other stuff in my awakening, and stuff comes out every so often. Sometimes it comes out more than once. But that's my physical, emotional, mental, psychological, and spirit body trying to sort through it all, because it's all experiencing itself at the same time, which can feel pretty fucked up sometimes. Sometimes it can feel like a complete and utter insanity, and give people the feeling of like you've lost your you've lost your biscuits or baskets or marbles. But that's only because they don't understand or know what you're experiencing. And the way to helping is to understand the concept of spirit to spirit, because it's working heart to heart. There was one place, psychiatric unit in 2021 in October. I don't know. But it was in 2021. I went to the Toronto Hospital. I had an experience there where it was like I was in the future, and I was talking to my future, my sister in the future. Or it may have even been myself, because we look. But they took me into the city to a different one. And to be honest, That was the only group of people that worked in the psychiatric unit that I felt could do any good for people. Because they were constantly talking to us. If we seemed like we were down, they talked to us. Everybody, somebody would talk to the people every day. It's not about putting them behind a bar, because that's what you're doing. It's giving them place where it represents healing and not institutionalized. You know, the Crown says they have all this property, which was stolen. They say they have all this property. But none of it is used for healing. Confirmation. So I'm fed up. And speak up. It's not about, like, you're not going to get anywhere insulting people. I know some people say, well, you come on here and insult people. Well, I guess you're reading me all wrong, aren't you? Because I'm telling my story and saying, like, what the fuck? I will say, because I ask the questions all the time, like, you know, people say about Jesus being like, never did anything wrong. Well, what do we know about him between the time that, like, he was born until he came into biblical terms? Do you not remember that? Weren't they saying that basically they had to flee to save him? Don't you think he was running for his life? You know, I looked into something, the 40 fasting in 40 days. How many of you knew that Jesus, Yeshua's grandfather, did the same thing? Mary's father? Virgin Mary's father? Jeremiah? Something like that? He did. You're not told everything. Told bits and pieces that are all scattered all over the place. And that's done for a reason, so that they figure that you can't put the pieces of the puzzle together to actually find out what the truth of it is. Because if you go too deep, because Elsa went deep. And Elsa froze. But before she froze, she was able to get the truth out there. So she sacrificed herself to free the people. And that's what each individual is capable of doing. It's It's not about finding out someone else's truth. It's about finding out the truth about yourself and your own family. Because that's how you're going to heal it. And that's how you're going to heal each other. Some people don't like me talking about and heal yourself. Your pills aren't helping you. They may for a time being, but eventually they kill you. When you learn how to heal yourself, you'll heal yourself by your own energy. When I had that experience happen where it was like I was just a massive vibrator, I was able to detox completely off my medications. Cold turkey. And I went through so much shit, and I put others through shit. And in the end, it wasn't just me. Because it was so many people coming together that are experiencing their awakening. And some just don't want to face it. That part is they know not what they do or say. But once you know and understand what it is that you're experiencing, then you do know what you say and do. And even then, you still do. But they use that phrase of they know not what they do or say only because they don't take the time to learn from it. It just becomes a program. You know, go watch the movie Click. He goes on autopilot because he's always trying to fast forward himself to a different time because he's never happy in the moment. So he always wants to be somewhere else but where he's at. Feeling it's like my head right now inside, it's like a vibration. It's like when things are healing, they shift and you become itchy, irritated. Sometimes I get a weird buzzing in my ass, and man, is it ever fucking irritating. We're adults, so it's nothing like yeah. But that's some of my path so far. Well, I mean, there's a lot in between there that I didn't tell. Not yet. Maybe one day it'll be like sit somewheres and just tell it all at once. Maybe I'll have to do it if I don't cry, but I experience other people too. So the fuck? That must have been payback for my dirty mind. If you want to make a song more hummy, add a few tiddly pooms, whatever the fuck that is. Tisikula patukoy mo siya naku Isa tatay. Sa tomto. Kero kuy. Most people never run far enough on their first wind to find out if they've got a second. Give your dreams all the energy that comes out of you. With that being said, I'm sending you all much love, light, many blessings, most importantly, very good health to anyone and everyone wanting, willing to receive and accept. I want you all to be big, bold, brave. Most importantly, be yourself. Be who you are, not who somebody says you are. Be authentic. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and know that you have more strength than you can comprehend at times. Tomorrow's the weekend. If I'm not talking to you or coming forward before then, have a great weekend. I'm going dancing. Oh, I won't be because I'm going dancing tomorrow night. And it's a friend of mine. She's having this dance thing where to release the energy within your body, you just dance whatever way you want. So I'm going. It's my first one. And I'm going to boogie. Love you all. Have a great night.